This is Rich Sierra. I'm the president of the Florida Small Business Legal Center and the host of Business SOS podcast. This is episode 34 of Business SOS. We keep plugging away. I am looking forward to having our 50th episode at some point. We'll have a celebration at that point, but we're very, very excited that we continue providing good content for you and helping business owners navigate the waters of being an entrepreneur and a business owner, which are not easy. Before I continue, I want you to participate in the show. I'd like to invite you to, if you have a legal question that you would like me to address in the show and on the podcast, please send it to me at rich@richsierra.com. Again, it's RICH at richsierra.com. And I'll be happy to take a look at it. And if something that I select to discuss at the show becomes a topic of the podcast, I will send you a free copy of my book. I'll autograph it for you, of Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and you can ask for it at your local bookstores. So today's episode is going to be kind of a public service announcement, so to speak. There are requirements that you as a business owner, especially you own a Florida business, that you have to comply with. So there are two topics we're going to talk about today. One is your requirement to file a Florida annual report. And we're also going to talk about the new reporting requirement by the federal government, specifically from fincen, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network of the U.S. Department of Treasury, the beneficial ownership information reporting requirements. And this is a new law that just became effective January 1st of this year, of 2024. And this part of the Transparency and Compliance Act in Congress that was passed in the Corporate Compliance Act that was passed in Congress sometime in 2021. But it became effective literally a few days ago. So bear with me in this one. I basically went over the 100-page document, the Small Entity Compliance Guide, so I can share with you some of my thoughts and share some of the information that I believe will be valuable to you in a more compact fashion and share with you your reporting obligations. So before we do that, let me talk about, if you have a Florida business, if you do business in Florida, you must be registered with the state. It's a very simple process in Florida to do so. If you go to sunbiz.org, it's sunbiz.org. All the information is available there, how to register your company to become, whether it's you're doing business out of state and you have a company registered out of state and you're doing business in Florida, you need to be registered in Florida as a foreign corporation, a foreign qualification. Obviously, if you have a business in Florida and you're a corporate entity, you're not a sole proprietorship, you also need to be registered in Florida as a Florida corporation, LLC, limited partnership, or whatever the case may be. The point is you need to be registered. Now, if you're already registered in Florida, then every year, effective in the first day of January, you have to file what is called a Florida annual report. It's a very simple form you can do online. You do not need an attorney to do this. You don't need an accountant to do this, although they can do it for you. But frankly, it is so simple to do that you can do it yourself. So you go to sunbiz.org. First of all, what is the annual report? The annual report is something that you update your information about who the owners of the company are, who the officers are, who the members of the LLC are. Make sure that the address is correct, who's going to be the registered agent. In some cases in Florida, for the corporation, you pay $150. And that's it, you complied. And you don't have to do this for an entire year. You can do that online. You also can mail it, but you can do it online. And it's very, very simple to do. It will not take you more than 5 minutes to do it. But it's something that you are required to do. Why? Yeah, first of all, it's the law. Number two, there are penalties for not doing it. I'm here. I basically downloaded this from Sunbiz, and I'm going to have this link available in my show notes, in both and the podcast show notes, but also on the YouTube channel as well, so you can have reference to it, and you can go directly to those links. It specifically says here, any for-profit corporation, limited liability company, limited partnership, or limited liability partnership annual report will have until 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until Monday, May 1st, 2024, before a $400 late fee is assessed. But it means that you have until from January 1st, 2024 through May 1st, 2024 to file your annual report. If you don't, then they're going to basically assess your $400 late fee. It's just not worth it. So many people just forget, they decide not to do it, they procrastinate. Just go ahead and get it done. It's very, very simple to do, and it's a requirement. Now, what if you forget? You say, you know what? You go past May 1st, you don't do it, you forget to do it, then you're running the risk that in September of this year, your company can be administratively dissolved, meaning that you're no longer authorized to conduct business in the state. Some people still conduct business in the state even after the corporate has been administratively dissolved. But what that means is that now you're doing business as an individual, you no longer have the benefit of the corporate veil. So there's so many consequences for not filing something this simple. And I wanted to do this right at the beginning of the podcast to make sure that you listen to it first. And when you get to your office, you listen to this in your car, just go ahead and just go to somebiz.org and file your annual report. It's very simple to do, and you don't want to have the risk of first of all, number one, having a fine of $400, and number two, having your company be dissolved for failing to comply with the requirement of the state. So I wanted to at least share that with you as a public service announcement. This you can do yourself. You don't need an attorney for this. So if you have a Florida company, my advice is to go ahead and do it. Very simple. So now to another topic here that I want to talk to you about. This is the beneficial ownership information. So what happens, Congress passed a law in 2021 that basically requiring all businesses in the country, all corporate, small businesses or corporate entities in the country to provide information about the owners to the federal government. And the purpose of this law was basically to them have knowledge of who is behind these entities, who's behind this company, so that way they prevent financial crimes, money laundering. They also listen to investigate terrorism. It's basically the federal government wants to know who is behind these companies, as opposed to have entities and not the owners not being known. It's a requirement to do it, and there are significant penalties for not doing so. And I'll go over those in a few minutes. So who has to report? And basically, if you have a company that you registered in any state, any state in the country, including Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, you are considered a reporting company. In Florida specifically, if your company's listed in somebiz.org, which I just talked about that a few minutes ago, your company has a reporting company. There's some exceptions to that. Right now, I'm not going to go over those. For the purposes of your podcast, you're listening to me, assume that your company, it is a reporting company. I'll go over some of the companies that are exempt from reporting. But for the most part, most companies have to report. And what do you have to report? Now, you basically have to report who's the beneficial owner of the company, and who are the owners of the company. So there are two things you got to report. The beneficial owners are individuals who own or control at least 25% of a company or have substantial control of the company, and a company applicant is an individual who directs files or primarily responsible for the filing of the document that creates the register of the company. So I'm going to go into more detail, but right now let's focus on who's the beneficial owner. So if you're a small business owner, you and your wife or your partner own 50-50 of the company, you are beneficial owners of that business. You have to report not only your company to the federal government, and I'll tell you how to do it in a few minutes, but also you have to report who are the owners of the company. You got to provide some information as well. If you have a manager for this company, a company that you have a general manager, you have an operations manager that may not be an owner of the company. That individual also has to be reported as well, because that individual has substantial control over the affairs of that business. So you have to report that as well. When can you file this report? Reports will be accepted starting now, January 1st, 2024. And the reports must be filed electronically using FinCen's filing system. And I'll have a link to that as well in my podcast notes, so you can go ahead and go directly to that link. Now, is this something you can do yourself? Absolutely. Just make sure you know exactly what you're submitting, because information has to be accurate when you submit to the federal government. You won't want to print the forms, do a draft, and then submit it. Then basically use that information to enter the information online as well. But your accountant, your attorney, and there might be services that actually provide assistance in how to comply with this requirement. What is the deadline to do so? The companies created or registered to do business before January 1st, 2024 will have until January 1st, 2025 to file their initial BOI reports. It's Beneficial Ownership Information Report. So you have 1 year technically to do it if your company was organized or registered in the state before January 1st, 2024. For companies that were registered now, from January 1st, 2024, you have 90 calendar days to register from the day that you receive a certificate, or you receive notification from, in this case, somebiz.org, that your company has been registered. So let's say an example. So if you have a business that was incorporated, say last year, you started your business, you incorporated it, it's registered with SomeBiz. Not only you have to do your annual report for this year, for 2024, but also you have to file your Beneficial Ownership Information Report with FinCen. You have until January 1st, 2025 to submit that information, to report it. If your company, say, was registered 2 weeks ago, then you have 90 calendar days from the day that you receive that email notification or the letter from the Florida Department of Corporations that the corporation has been registered, the LLC has been registered. Then you have 90 calendar days to also submit your report. In somebiz.org, also there is a link to the information on FinCen and also on the beneficial ownership information. So I know I'm giving you a lot of information, a lot of dates here. So I'm trying to simplify it for you. Bottom line is, company that started before this year, before January 1st, 2024, you have 1 year to file the BOI report. If you started the company this year, after January 1st, 2024, you have 90 days. And I know further down the line, if a company is registered after January 1st, 2025, then it's 30 days. So they're giving us some type of grace period. The bottom line, we have to do it. So who's a beneficial owner? And let's talk about that actually, I want to talk to you about first, who's a reporting company? Basically, a reporting company is an entity that has been filed, that you have organized in any state in the country. So if your company has been registered in somebiz.org, you're a reporting company. You filed a document with the Secretary of State, you're a reporting company. So assume that you are. I'll go over the consequences or penalties for not doing so. There are some exceptions to the reporting requirements, and there are 23 specific examples, and I'm just going to read them quickly, so that way, in the case you fall in those categories, although most small businesses that I work with do not fall in this category, with the exception of one or two. But I'm just going to read them to you briefly, so that way, quickly, so you know whether or not your business may be exempt. And I do want you to double check this as well. Just don't take what I'm reading to you, as legal advice, you have the obligation to double check to make sure that whether or not you are required to file it right now, assume that you are, okay? But some of the exceptions are securities reporting issuer, governmental authority, banks do not have to file the BOI report, credit union, depository institution holding company, money services businesses. Those are businesses that like check cashing stores. They don't have to do it. A broker or dealer in securities exchange or clearing agency, other exchange act or registered entity, investment companies, venture capital fund advisor, insurance companies, state licensed insurance producer, Commodity Exchange Act registered entity, an accounting firm, specifically a CPA firm, does not have to report. Public utility does not have to market financial market utility. Pool investment vehicle, a tax exempt entity does not have to. Which kind of surprised me in this when I saw that. Entity assisting a tax exempt entity, that's kind of broad. Large operating company. Large operating company, what I read is like company that has at least 20 employees and have a gross revenue of $5 million per year. They are what they consider a large operating company. A subsidiary of certain exempt entities, inactive entity. I will tell you that some of these exemptions are very broad and they're not very detailed. But if you're a business that provide businesses to business to business or business to consumer, if you're not in any of those categories, you're a reporting entity and you have to provide information to the federal government. And this report that I'm telling you where I'm getting this information is the Small Entity Compliance Guide that was published by the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network from the U.S. Department of Treasury, and it's as of December 2023. So this is very recent, and I'm going to have a link to this particular document as well. So if you want to review it, you can download it as well, and that's where I'm getting my information from. So we're learning this together. Just bear with me. So I'm trying to simplify it for you, and I have to admit that information is not as clear as I would like it to be. So what are the consequences of not doing so? Okay. One of the questions, and I'm going to read some of the portions of the handout simply because it's clear that what I would actually tell you. One of the questions and answer, what happens if my company does not report BOI in the required time frame? And I'm just going to read an excerpt here for you because it is very important to know this is something that we are required to do. And if we do not do so, there'll be significant consequences. And I'll read specifically from the handout. The willful failure to report a complete or updated beneficial ownership information to fincen, or the willful provision of or attempt to provide false or fraudulent information, beneficial ownership information, may result in a civil or criminal penalties, including civil penalties up to $500 for each day that the violation continues, or criminal penalties including imprisonment for up to 2 years and/or a fine up to $10,000. Senior officers of an entity that fails to file a required BOI report may be held accountable for that failure. So, it's very clear. If you're a business owner, you're a manager of the business, you're operations manager, you're responsible for that business, you are required to do so within the time frame which we talked about. This particular case, your company was registered before January 1st, 2024. You have 1 year to do it. Let's not wait that long. It doesn't cost you anything to do so. But if you fail to provide information, you can have civil penalties up to $500 per day that the violation continues, and also criminal penalties, including imprisonment for up to 2 years and up to a fine up to $10,000. So it's just not worth it not to comply because you're required to do so. And clearly they can cross-reference who has not complied by downloading, by getting, and they already have that information, all the information from the Secretary of States that have been filed, but they also have the EIN number. It's very easy to cross-reference EIN numbers with who has not filed a BOI report. That's not very difficult to do, will not be difficult to do for them, and they can find out who owns these companies. So it is certainly, and I want to impress that upon you. This is something that you have to do. It is not an option. If you have a company that is operating, you're a reporting company, you have to do this. So don't basically procrastinate, just get it done. A question that will come up, and it's who has substantial control of the company? Who is a beneficial owner for the purposes of reporting it to the beneficial ownership information report? Okay? And I'm going to read straight from the handout. It's very clear. And it says, reporting companies that are required to identify all individuals who exercise substantial control over the company. There is no limit to the number of individuals who can be reported for exercising substantial control. And they define what substantial control means. An individual exercises substantial control over a reporting company if the individual meets any of the four general criteria. The individual is a senior officer. The individual has authority to appoint or remove certain officers or a majority of directors of a reporting company. The individual is an important decision maker, or the individual has any other form of substantial control over the reporting company. And they provide a chart as well in the handout, as on page 17. So if you're a senior officer, they give examples here that if you're the president, chief financial officer, general counsel, chief executive officer, chief operating officer, that individual has to be reported in the beneficial ownership information. Who has removal authority? The person has the ability to hire or fire board of directors, employees. That's somebody who has substantial control of the business. Who's an important decision maker? And it kind of gives you some examples. Somebody who has substantial influence over important decisions made by the reporting company, including decisions regarding the reporting companies as business, the nature, scope, attributes of the business, selection or termination of business lines, ventures, geographic focus, the entry or termination or fulfillment of significant contracts, finances, sale, lease, mortgage, or transfer principal assets, major expenditures or investments, issuance of any equity, occurrence of any significant debt, approval operating budget, compensation schemes and incentive programs for senior officers, structure, reorganization, dissolution or merger, amendments to any substantial governance documents of the reporting company. And then they also have a catch-all provision. So anything that was not included there, they basically say any other form of substantial control over the reporting company. So in essence, anybody who makes an significant important decision in your business is somebody that they will consider to have substantial control over that business and has to be reported to the federal government. In essence, what they do not want to see, and this is my opinion in this case, is that sometimes people put somebody else as the officer of the company, quote unquote, or as the owner, but the person who's running the business is behind the scenes and is nowhere in the corporate documents. That happens. So what they want to say is, okay, you cannot have a quote unquote straw man or straw woman basically being the face of the corporate documents in the corporation filings while somebody else is running the business behind the scenes. That's very common. It happens for a number of reasons we're not going to go into right now. But they're saying, okay, you're going to report anybody who's listed, but also we want to see anybody who's not listed who has the ability to make decisions on this business. So that's where you need to review this. You need to be very cognizant of the fact that they don't not only want the owners of at least 25% ownership interest, They also want the people who make the decisions on that business that might not be owners of the business. You got to report both. What information do you got to provide? I'll do that in a second. The information you got to provide is very important and is very, it's detailed. Now, I want to tell you specifically what you have to provide here. Bear with me for a second. You got to provide the name and address of each beneficial owner. We define what beneficial owners are. You have to also provide an ID, a picture ID, either whether it's a driver's license or a passport of each individual owner, that beneficial owner of the company. And page 38 of this handout, which I'm going to post on my website, on my podcast, and also on the show notes on the YouTube channel, has a required information checklist. And I'll just read through you briefly some of them. Obviously, full legal name of the company. You also have trade name, the doing business as, the complete current address, the jurisdiction, state, whether it's tribal, foreign, internal revenue, taxpayer identification number, TIN number, or the EIN number for the company. So that's for the company, reporting company. For each beneficial owner, you need to provide the following: the full legal name, date of birth, complete current address, unique identifying number, issuing jurisdiction, and image. And that's significant. So, image of one of the following: U.S. passport, state driver's license, or ID identification document issued by a state, local government, or tribe. Okay? If the individual does not have any of the previous documents, a foreign passport. So, in essence, they want to know the information on the reporting company, but also they want to, for each individual that is identified as a beneficial owner, they want to have this information, and you have to be prepared to have this information and upload it to their website. Now, there's a lot here that I provided to you, that I gave, and I have to admit, some of it is confusing, and some of the information is not clear. But what is clear is that you have to provide this information to the federal government, to fincen. What is clear is you have deadlines. If you have a business that is operating, was created before January 1st, 2024, is something you have to comply with. And also you have to do it online. Where can you submit this information? Where can you actually provide it? The website, and I'm going to post this as well, is fincen.gov, fincen.gov/BOI. Again, it's the website to get more information on the beneficial ownership information report and deadlines and how to comply is fincen.gov, fincen.gov/BOI. And the information is there. The good news is that we're still early in the process. And if you have any information, you can, this information is available on the web. Your accountant might be able to help you, your attorney might be able to help you, but it's pretty much self-explanatory. So it's not, it's very simple. I know there's some companies that are providing these services already at a fee. You won't want to use those companies if you want to, but you really don't have to. Just something you can do yourself, especially when you're uploading an image of your driver's license or passport. That's something that you want to consider as well. So I think I gave you a lot of information today. Remember, also file your annual report with sunbiz.org, your Florida annual report. Don't forget that. And I think this is good for today, for episode 34. Again, if you have any questions, anything you'd like to ask me, please reach me at rich@richsierra.com. If you want to learn more about our legal services that we provide, you can look at our website at smallbusinesslegalcenter.com. We're in Facebook at FSB Legal. Our YouTube channel, we actually have this audio. We're doing a video as well. If you want to watch the video, we're on youtube.com// at Richard Sierra. We're on X at Rich_Sierra. We're on Instagram at FSB Legal. If you want to give us a call, we're at 1-866-842-5202. Remember that Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes business owners make and how to avoid them. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and you can ask for your local bookstores. Remember to follow us in Apple Podcasts, and appreciate if you can give us a 5-star review. That helps the algorithm to share this information, this podcast with other business owners. Until next week, this is Rich Sierra. Remember that my goal is to help you succeed.